Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Hollywood Arcade. I'm Steven. Today's video is going to break down episode 5 of Wandavision. There's a lot to unpack in this episode and going forward, not only through the source material in the comic books, but also through the behind-the-scenes acquisitions of character rights through the various studios that have held them over the years. So if you're interested in having that all broken down and potentially spoiled for you, at least you would be in the know. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. This episode of WandaVision looks like it takes place in the 80s era of television sitcoms. Wanda and Vision are lovingly taking care of Tommy and Billy in their home. And we see that Wanda tries to use her powers to get Tommy and Billy to sleep, but her powers don't work on them. Now this could just be a kind of goof, gimmick, or a plot device in the sitcom reality, but I think it has actually larger implications because it could be that the showrunners are actually going with the whole Tommy and Billy's souls are actually fragments of the demon Mephisto's, and maybe her powers don't work on him. Then Agnes shows back up, and she seems to have a kind of preternatural insight as to what's going on in the household. At one point in time, she offers to take over trying to get the kids down to sleep, and Vision, as a concerned father, doesn't want her to. He doesn't feel comfortable. And then she turns to Wanda and asks her if she wants to take that again, as if she's taking stage directions or directions from a director on an actual television set. So I thought it was really interesting because that either implies that she's a player all of her own and she doesn't really care what Vision wants, or she's behaving according to Wanda's subconscious desires. But in all honesty, if I looked at both of them, it seems as though Wanda's as confused as Vision is by this whole thing. So then we jump back out of Westview into the Sword camp, where they've got multiple different agencies trying to solve the puzzle of Wanda's involvement. And Monica is getting a scan done on her brain, and the results come back blank. And I believe that this is implying that they may have already introduced her powers in some way. I don't know how that could have happened. Maybe something to do with Wanda, throwing her out of the town and mixing with the hex field around, but I think that there's something to the fact that her scans came back blank, because that just doesn't really make too much sense. It's got to be for a purpose. It would be kind of silly to just throw this, oh, the machines are malfunctioning, we have to do it again for no other reason. So then Hayward shows everybody the footage that Wanda 9 days prior had broken into a top secret sword facility and taken the corpse of the android Vision. And so it paints this really gruesome picture that Wanda has set up this barrier, this hexagonal barrier around the town of Westview, so she can kind of dance Vision's corpse around to suit her purposes of having a happily ever after, which is just absolutely balls to the wall gruesome. But one thing that's really bizarre and doesn't quite add up is Wanda doesn't seem to quite know how it all started either, which all leads me back to believing that she is being manipulated by some outside force for some unknown purpose, and I'm really excited to get down to it. So Monica has the really bright idea to send a drone in that's era specific to the 80s, so that Wanda's powers wouldn't automatically have to try to rewrite it to fit the time period. And of course that all goes tits up pretty quick, and she comes out, Wanda does, of the barrier and just threatens everybody to leave her alone. Pretty much cementing the fact that Wanda, although she may not be the main antagonist in this series, she's definitely not mentally stable and not one that you want to mess with. She could have easily wiped them all out. As somebody in the episode pointed out, she had a better chance at beating Thanos single-handed over anybody, and that includes the combined forces of Thor, Captain America, wielding the power of Thor, and Iron Man. The only person that maybe stood a chance over her, of course, being Captain Marvel. And I thought it was interesting that they also pointed out that both she and Wanda had their powers gifted to them by one of the Infinity Stones. Captain Marvel had her powers given to her via the Space Stone, and Wanda the Mind Stone. So I'm gonna just let you guys know that the Infinity Stones aren't going away. In the comic books, along with Thanos, they're kind of one of those things that just keep coming back. I think that in the comics they've even destroyed them in the past, and they just reform and you know, show up somewhere else for Thanos to get his hands on or something. And so here comes the big reveal in this episode, where Wanda is reunited with her brother Pietro Maximoff. But hold on a second. That's not the Pietro Maximoff from the MCU that we know, not the one that died in the Age of Ultron. This is the Pietro Maximoff from the X-Men series. Now, this is going to be a real big rabbit hole that we're going to go down here for a second. So, Pietro Maximoff in the comic books is obviously Wanda's sister. They are both mutants who are born from the mutant Magneto. So they were able to use Pietro Maximoff in the Avengers movies because he was an Avenger, and as long as they didn't refer to him as a mutant, it was fine. But similarly, Fox was able to use him as an X-Man, as a mutant, because they hold the rights to the mutants. Now, Disney has the Fox studios, so they can kind of use all of them that they want. And the fact that they brought in the actor from the X-Men movies and not the one from the MCU movies really has me believing that this is going to be kicking off the multiverse, as well as bringing magic into the mix. But this is a surefire implication that something else is going on there beyond Wanda's control, and it has to do with the multiverse. Okay, so this is where the behind the scenes studio acquisitions kind of comes into play. So let me put my tinfoil hat on and try to coherently break this stuff down for you guys. So I've been talking a lot about Mephisto over the series of my videos, but who is he really? And I'll start with that. So he has the appearance of the devil, and he likes to refer to himself as the devil, but he's not actually, you know, the Christian devil. He's an extra-dimensional demon who occupies a pocket dimension of his own that he refers to as hell. And he's tangled with just about everybody in the comic books. The Fantastic Four, Doctor Doom, the Avengers, Spider-Man, and many, many more. Now, in the comic books, the Fantastic Four, if you're unfamiliar, America's first family, are a group of astronauts who go into space. They had an encounter with galactic radiation, which gave them their powers, manifestations of one of the four elements: earth, fire, air, and water. Now, Susan Storm and Reed Richards had a kid named Franklin Richards, and Franklin Richards is a overpowered little kid that you don't want to mess with. And at one point in time, he got into a tussle with Mephisto and overpowered him and shattered Mephisto's soul. And that's how Wanda was able to create Tommy and Billy out of thin air, was she inadvertently used a couple pieces of somebody else's soul. Now let's look at Marvel Studios' plans for the future for a moment. Previously, the Fantastic Four's rights were exclusively through Fox, which Disney just absorbed. Kevin Feige has confirmed that they are coming to the MCU, and in fact may already be an unrevealed part of it. Similarly, Spider-Man's rights are still with Sony. Disney and Sony have brokered a deal so that he can be a part of the MCU. However, we also know that Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Emma Stone, Kirsten Dunst, Jamie Foxx, and Alfred Molina have all been confirmed to be reprising their roles from each of their respective Spider-Man franchises, which implies that there will be a focus on a multiverse or a Spider-Verse, as it were. This show ties directly into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Mephisto rules a pocket dimension and is connected to all the characters I have just mentioned. In addition, Doctor Strange has a love interest in the comics named Clea, who is the Sorcerer Supreme of another dimension. It's all connected. Clea has famously white hair, and we see here that Dottie looks pretty similar to her, so I'm wondering if they're connected at all. Now, previously, Elizabeth Olsen said in an interview that there's a big reveal with this series, WandaVision, that is similar in scope and implication as Luke Skywalker returning in the season 2 finale of The Mandalorian. Do I think that this version of Pietro Maximoff is that big reveal? No, I don't. I think it's going to be something that's going to just be mind-blowing. I think it may be something along the lines of potentially a version of Spider-Man. I mean, I think it really could be that big because really they're bringing in an actor from a different franchise that used to be with a different studio when they already had an actor that played Pietro Maximoff at their disposal that they could have used. So this is really showing us that they're pulling out all the stops and they're really going to be pulling from all the different sources. And you know how Disney kind of plays it close to the vest. They could already be introducing a big character. And I think it could be something like Spider-Man. Well, that's going to do it here for this episode of the Hollywood Arcade. I thank you guys for stopping by. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to hit the like button. It really helps me continue to create content. And while we're on the topic, go ahead and subscribe and ring the bell notifications so that you can always be let know when I come out with a new video. I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves. Please reach out for me in the comments and I'll get back to you. And as always, thanks for stopping by. I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye-bye.